Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second district-wide town hall. We're here at the San Diego College of Continuing Education North City campus. I want to thank President King, Dean Michelle Gray for hosting us today, allowing us to come into this beautiful campus for our event. We, of course, did our first town hall back in the spring at Mesa College and excited to get out to other parts of our district. I want to thank everyone who has made the effort to be here in the room with us today at the North City campus. I know getting out and about in traffic in the middle of a Wednesday can be a bit difficult at times. I appreciate the effort you've made to be here. To everyone logged in on Zoom, apologies about the issues with the link. Thank you for your patience. A little bit of a delayed start, but hopefully everybody that is able to has been able to get logged in. We are recording this, so for those who can't watch it live or may be delayed getting in, you'll be able to go catch up on anything you might have missed. There are two primary purposes for the town hall. One is for me to be able to share some information that is relevant to everyone across our district, but more importantly, to spotlight programs that are going on, particularly at our colleges, that some might not be aware of. And this town hall, we're going to spotlight our Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander Serving Institution grant programs and our Hispanic-Serving Institution grant programs. And I'll talk in a minute about why that is so important to us right now and the reason that I wanted to spotlight those programs. But first, just want to share a few things for everyone. We are in day 36 of the federal government shutdown. This is now officially the longest shutdown in the history of our country. Given the level of political division that we've been experiencing over the last, really building over the last 15 years, that in itself is not necessarily a surprise. But we have reached the point of the shutdown that people are being impacted quite severely. First, federal employees, and I was working at the Department of Labor in 2013 during a shutdown. I know this firsthand. They have now missed a full paycheck. So most or many federal employees are paid biweekly. The beginning of the shutdown on October 1st, they were in the last week of a 2-week pay period. And so many received a paycheck the second week of October for 7 of the 10 days that they had worked, so 70% of their normal biweekly paycheck. The next paycheck would have happened last week. And many, more than half federal employees did not receive, almost all federal employees, just a few excepted, did not receive a paycheck. And almost half are working while not receiving a paycheck. Many others are furloughed. Neither situation is a good one to be in, but imagine having to show up for work an entire month and not knowing if and when you're going to get paid, the stresses that come with that. So please be mindful and sensitive to the fact that we don't necessarily know who is directly impacted by this. Many of our employees and students have spouses, significant others, family members, friends, people in their community that they have close relationships with that are really struggling financially. And of course, many news stories have covered the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which funding has lapsed. There's been some recent uncertainty just as we reach the end of the month and the expiration of the current benefits, controversy over whether or not an emergency fund would be used, a court case around that, a decision from a judge saying the administration has to use that emergency fund, a communication from the president saying they were not going to do it regardless of what the court said, and then another communication from the White House saying we're going to pay half the benefits. In some ways, that level of uncertainty is worse than knowing you're just not going to pay it, because then I know what reality I have to deal with, plan for, and manage. But the back and forth on that adds additional stress and anxiety. We have over 400,000 people in San Diego County that those investments in the SNAP program and others are how they are able to meet their basic needs in this moment as they make transitions or plans to otherwise be able to move into living wage employment. It's incredibly impactful. I appreciate the work that all of our basic needs centers have been doing, the communications that have gone out to have more members of our community aware of what we're doing on our campuses, to connect students with those. And so I would encourage everyone, go back and look for those emails for your campus. Know where those centers are, and if you happen to be the one who comes across a student who asks about resources available, you'll be able to tell them where to go and not have to refer them to someone who's going to refer them to someone. The more barriers you put between a person and the resources they need, the more likelihood they choose not to go down that path and find those resources. So thank you to everyone who's committed to that, but it's a really stressful time for many in our community. Coming back to the HSI and the Anapesi programs and what in the federal legislation is called Minority-Serving Institution Programs. It's terminology I don't really like to use. That term minority is a bit pejorative, but MSI programs, as they're called in the legislation, you may be aware that back in July, the Department of Justice sent a letter to the Department of Education saying that it would not be defending the Department of Education in a lawsuit filed by the state of Tennessee and Students for Fair Admission. You may recognize that group. They are the ones that sued Harvard and others over race-based criteria in college admissions. They sued the Department of Education claiming that MSI programs are inherently discriminatory. And the basis of that lawsuit essentially is that in order to qualify for the grants, a certain percentage of your students need to identify with a certain race or ethnicity. On its face value, I could understand how someone who's unfamiliar with the program might say there's a logic to that. If a certain number of my students have to be a particular race in order to get money, it appears there's a race-based criteria. The reality, though, is that's not the reason for these programs or the way that they work. The reason for these programs is essential, and this is the conversation that in many states it's very difficult to have right now, is that the history of discrimination in education, employment, housing, many other forms of public life in America was specific and intentional. The color of your skin, the country of your origin, the language you spoke, the religion that you practiced was the reason that you were excluded. And so when we see communities that have been underinvested in, that are under-resourced, that are minoritized, whichever word we choose to label on there, that was not the unintended consequence of well-meaning policy. That was intentional by design. My time working in employment discrimination taught me that equal employment opportunity, which makes it illegal to be intentionally discriminatory, alone does not fix these problems. We have created generational harms that go well beyond anything that can be corrected by saying it's now illegal to bar someone from coming into our colleges based on their race, their ethnicity, country of origin, etc. The MSI programs were created to intentionally invest in communities that have been harmed. This is the corrective action. And so the HSI and the Anapesi and now the Black Serving Institution program in California ensure that the investment go to the communities where the investment is needed. For example, in the HSI program, 25% or more of your students must identify as Hispanic, which then makes you eligible to apply for Hispanic-Serving Institution grants to serve those communities. It's making sure the money's going to where it needs to go to help correct the historical harm. So it is not discriminatory, it is the correction to discrimination. So when the Department of Justice sent that letter, it was really disappointing, abdicating its responsibility to defend a program that Congress passed over 30 years ago that has been operating successfully. The Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, or HACU, filed a petition with the court to defend the program since the Department of Justice said it's not going to. That was recently granted, so that case will continue to move on. But in the meantime, we have important work to continue doing. As I communicated out via email, we have already had $2.2 million in grant funds for HSI and Anapesi grants at our 3 credit colleges canceled. We have committed to backfilling those funds. We are not stopping any of that work in the life cycle of these current grants. Some end at the end of this current year, a couple will end at the end of next year. And now the work continues on to how do we continue to do that work if we can no longer apply for those grants. Let's assume the lawsuit ends up ending those programs. We're not going to stop doing the work of serving our communities. With intentionality, explicitly and clearly, it's going to have to be restructured. And the good news, we have time to figure that out. Okay, I've used up all of my time on our intro, but I have a couple other things I want to say, and then we'll get into our first panel. Very quickly, I had an interesting experience about 2 weeks ago. I began having issues with the battery on my phone, and basically I could not use my phone if it wasn't directly connected to an outlet, which is, as you become, like me, completely reliant on maps for navigating around cities, like I was in LA as this was happening. But what also happened is I was in conversations with people. I could not multitask or be distracted. Like, it was not technologically possible for me. And even as I was having conversations where I really wanted to look up data points, as we were talking about something like, I have the entire history of human knowledge in my pocket if it would turn on right now, and I could say with certainty what this statistic is. But we had to have that conversation without being able to do that. And in this particular conversation I was in, we were talking about housing and affordable housing in San Diego. And the group of us had to build some common understanding that was entirely based on our lived experience and direct knowledge, which communities we've been in, where we've been around the city, where we've driven to, where we haven't, and create shared understanding. I learned a lot more about the people I was sitting with than we would have learned if we could have pulled out and immediately pulled up, well, in this zip code, it's this, whatever the number was. I say all that to encourage you to find intentional time to set aside the technology and resist, for all the English majors out there, Keats, that irresistible urge to get fact, to be able to live in uncertainty with each other and explore that a bit, and let the human interpersonal reactions, the relational aspects of that, be more important than the certainty of the data point you could look up or the source you could cite if you were to reach for your phone. Anyways, I just tell that story briefly because it was a very interesting experience, and I've been a lot more intentional since then, even as my phone's working again, to set that aside. I also want to acknowledge that we continue to see this presidential administration press on colleges and universities across America to adopt an ideology that is in alignment with this administration's values. And particularly harmful in that is asking universities to sign on to a compact that will only recognize two biological sexes, that will only allow people to participate in athletics in alignment with their biological sex, that would get rid of restroom and other facilities that are gender neutral, to strike that kind of language completely. And we need to recognize that is an attempt to eliminate a person's identity and presence. And that's explicitly what it is. We can couch it in whatever more comfortable terminology than we want, but that is what's happening. It creates a culture of fear. It creates a culture where people feel empowered to harass. And we have been down this road before in our history, and we know the level of violence that this can result in. I bring this up to say that this is not going to be tolerated in our district, and we are not going to agree to any type of compact or policy or exchange of funding if you do these things. We are going to stand resolute on this. We are very fortunate to have 5 board members that are unanimous on this issue, that are absolute in their support. And so we will continue to do the work that we've been doing, and we'll do it explicitly. We will continue to affirm the intersecting identities of our students and the spaces they come into. We will continue to make progress towards making every one of our spaces culturally affirming. I know we still have a really strong history of heteronormative values in America. Even in a setting like this, I slip up sometimes and start by saying, ladies and gentlemen, and then immediately telling everybody who doesn't identify along those two biological sex categories, I don't necessarily see you or recognize you in this space. It's very hard to retrain ourselves culturally around these issues, but it's essential that we continue that work, and we're going to continue that work. And we're not going to be part of any pressure campaign, whatever they hang in the balance. We will find ways to fight this. And I want everybody to hear that very loudly and clearly from me. So with that, we're a bit over time on this. I want to get to the panels, and we're going to start with our Anapesi programs at each of our credit colleges. And so as I said in my intro, these programs are not discriminatory. They're the correction to discrimination. But many of you may not be aware of what's actually happening. What's the work that we're doing to invest in communities that historically have not been allowed or have not been resourced in the same way? And so I want to say thank you to each of our colleges. Our directors are going to introduce themselves, the folks that are actually doing this work. And they're going to tell you their stories a bit, show you some data. So we'll have a slideshow that goes along with this. But we'll go down in order from City College to Miramar. If you will introduce yourself, and then we can start going through your slides, a bit about your program for everyone.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Corinne Makapugai. I'm the co-director of our Anapesi program at San Diego City College called ICANN. It's the Inclusive City Achievement Network.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joshua Lindo, and I am the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Student Success Coordinator over at City College, and I work with Corinne.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leland Simpliciano. I'm a PZ Director and Programs Activities Manager at San Diego Mesa College.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nisa Julian. I'm the Dean of Lead and Equity at San Diego Miramar College.
So to kick us off, hello everyone, I'm Corinne again. When we created this program in 2022 with my partner at the time, Dr. Masa Omai, we wanted to bring together a program that would not only cultivate belonging, but to increase the success of our Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander students. But along with that too, we wanted to be able to share the beautiful parts of our history and our heritage to our non-API students as well. And so we've had great success with our program. The picture that I have in front of you is actually the grand opening of our NHPI Connection Center, which you'll hear more from Josh in a bit. This was just 2 months ago, although we've been doing work ever since 2023 when we finally did get the award for the grant. I also wanted to mention that next to me, I have a textile from one of my students who was a refugee from Burma. And I wanted to bring it with me because everything that we do in service to our students. So what has been our impact so far? So back in 2022, when we wrote this grant, we had about 11% of our total campus population be Asian Pacific Islander. Now we're at 20%. We have a robust team of instructors, our student success coordinator, we have academic counselors, we have mental health counselors, we have students who work as our technical writers. We have tutors as well. And again, what we wanted to do, I'm a social worker and a community organizer by background. We wanted to create this wraparound service and comprehensive program to support all of our students. As I mentioned, our learning community is a little bit open. Yes, we have API students, and we are intentionally providing general education courses with an Asian Pacific Islander perspective, but it is open to all. So yes, API students, but also non-API students as well, as the photo of one of our very first English classes shows. We have courses in English, personal growth, history, philosophy, art, writing and composition. We're about to launch our first Asian American Pacific Islander Studies class. And all of these general ed classes are done with an API perspective. And even though we didn't offer that first class until spring 2024, we have over 376 students who have taken our courses, even though we're only in our 5th semester. Of our students, about 157 receive academic counseling. We just started mental health a couple of months ago, and we already have about 80 different sessions that our students have benefited from. In outreach, we are making sure that we come out into our communities and meet our API neighbors and siblings and let them know what opportunities we have for learning and career pathways at San Diego City College and in our district. And on top of that too, over 1,000 people we outreach to in our community to again remind them that higher education is accessible to them, that together we will combat the bottom minority myths and stereotypes and ensure that we are not upholding any barriers and opportunities to our neighbors' higher education.
Okay, so hello everybody again. My name is Josh, like I said. Part of our programming involved creating a student hub or a student center on City College campus. And so we officially opened our NP Connection Center actually this past September. However, prior to that, we served 429 students throughout the 24-25 academic year, which just goes to show you that even though our center did not exist at that time, these supports, these programs, and the care from our City College community, was there for all of our students. And like Corinne mentioned, we had 20% of our students identify as AAPI, which means that, of the 429 students, a lot of them are not AAPI, which goes to show you again, too, that these services are for all. And so that's the kind of approach and philosophy that we took when we created the center. Excuse me. So since opening on September 3rd, with our grand opening, we have had over 110 student visits, and that's just student traffic within our center. I can tell you that recently, of course, this data might be a little outdated because we keep having more students come through every single day. Additionally, we had over 160, which now, because of our most recent event, is closer to about 300, plus students served via campus activities, programs, events, and supports. All of these, of course, are made to help build connection and community within our college community, but at the same time to really highlight our AAPI perspectives, our stories, our histories, and find where our stories align, if you will. And then lastly, our Connection Center serves as a meeting space, not just for our API Student Alliance Club, but for anybody. I tell people this all the time, but we are called the AA NHPI Connection Center, but you do not have to identify whatsoever as AAPI to come and use our services, to come connect, and again, to build community with everybody around. Thank you.
All right. Hello, again. My name is Leland Simpliciano, here to talk about San Diego Mesa College. Thank you, City College, for that information, and also just acknowledging the district. So some other brag bags that I'd like to share is that San Diego Mesa College was the first ANAPZ grant awarded in San Diego County. And then number 2 is San Diego City College. So we have the only 2 ANAPZ grants here in San Diego County. And then other things, it's really important because San Diego is the 7th largest API population. And then also the founder of downtown San Diego is NHPI, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander descent, Kanaka Davis. You can learn more about him in downtown San Diego in the museum. So that comes to show like it's really important to understand our student population and understand our community. And this was our response, especially when it came 2020 with the COVID-19 and then the Stop API hate. How do we ensure that students feel welcomed and feel safe here in this campus? And how do we provide those services? So the ANAPZ grant team, they wrote a grant and saying like, we are going to hit these objectives. As you can see, the 6 objectives is enrollment, persistence, graduation within 3 years, the utilization of the career resources, the learning communities, and then also professional development. So educating our faculty and staff in regards to learning more about the AAPI community. As of right now, fall 2025, student population is 21,374. And currently with the AAPI population is 4,862, which is about 22.7%. I did wish I did a compare and contrast. So I'm relatively new to San Diego Mesa College, or San Diego in general, so about 2 years. Doing my research about San Diego, it was originally 15%. So you see the growth in regards to where it was at 15% to 22.7%. And we give credit to the ANAPZ grant as it allowed us to do more outreach to the communities here at Mesa College or into San Diego, and then also disaggregating data as well. Because one thing that needs to be explored about is mixed race populations, and that's how we were able to really just like, as mentioned, like really tell the true stories about our students and how can we serve them. Very similar, we do a lot of program services in regards to staffing, field trips, but one promising practice that we've been recommended by our external evaluator, and our external evaluator, she is a pro, she was an ANAPZ director herself, and she goes to ANAPZ schools nationwide, seeing what is the best practice for serving our students. And one of it is with professional development. And once again, understanding our student population, it is really important to understand like how do we serve them, what are the challenges that they're facing. Y'all mentioned in regards to like the model minority myth, and it's really assessing our faculty and staff, like are they aware of these issues, and then how it's impacting the students. We have this community of practice, which is a 3-day intensive of learning about the AAPI community, and then in addition, it is supported on a monthly basis for check-ins. So faculty and members, they learn about the AAPI community, they work on the curriculum, they work on the classroom setting, and then on the monthly basis, we check in saying like, oh, is this working? How do we pivot? How do we make these adjustments? And this was the assessment in regards to the faculty and staff that is coming in before the community practice. And then this is kind of like the post survey. So I know the data is a little bit small, but just know that whatever you see that's blue and orange, those are basically the responses that we're trying to improve. And then the areas of like weaknesses that the faculty and staff are trying to be more aware of, that's how we're able to change it and improve that. Thank you. And then also just thinking about the larger impact. So far we've had 3 cohorts, 50 participants, and full-time is usually about 5 classes, 30 students. So 50 instructors times 150, that's an impact about 7,500 students. And then we continue to do that and bring that awareness. And I know Chancellor Greg mentioned to like be off our phone and everything, looking up data, but we are research-based, we are evidence-based, so this is a promising practice as I cite my source in the bottom of there. So more data to share. I yield my time to, this one.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nisa Julian from Miramar. So unlike City and Mesa, we do not have the ANAPZ grant. We actually have ANAPI or ANAPI, which is funding from the state of California, and it stands for Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Student Achievement Program. That's a mouthful. So locally at Miramar, we have adopted the PEARL program, which stands for Promoting Educational Achievement, Retention, and Leadership. And that is what we locally refer to the ANAPI SAP program. And it encompasses anything to support our Asian American, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander student community and employees. And so I'll talk a little bit about the program and Miramar in particular. So our demographics at Miramar, we roughly have between 18 to 20% of students who identify as Asian or Filipino or Pacific Islander. The focus for the ANAPI grant is similar to a lot of the other grants that we have on campus, really focusing on student success. So some of the things that we've been working on are how to develop culturally responsive learning communities, advising and counseling, mental health and wellness, career development and readiness, tutoring or supplemental instruction, curriculum development, and leadership development and mentorship. So we are in semester 3 of having the grant, and we've been able to make progress towards each of these areas of focus for ANAPI SAP. This is our 3rd semester hosting paired courses with English, C1000, taught from the AAPI perspective. We've also paired the course with Filipino studies. This year, or last semester, we paired C1000 with Music 103 from, again, the API perspective. And then next semester, we're looking at introducing AAPI 124 along with English C1000. So we're super excited about that. We've been able to enroll about 60 students so far in those 3 cohorts. And as we are gearing up for fall semester, we just sent out the interest information, and we already have, I think, 40 students who are interested in the program. And what we've been able to do with that in particular are build in all of the different elements. So today we had a workshop for our students focusing on career readiness and career development. We also have a mental health component. So we're trying to do what we can to build up the program and create space and community for our students. Another opportunity that we have through Miramar is we were awarded a grant through the San Diego Foundation. It was formerly called the ANAPI Mental Health Grant. It's now known as the Lotus Grant. And those grant funds are really focused in on increasing access to screenings, building intergenerational connections with our students in the community, looking at pathways for leadership for our youth, and then community partnerships. So this is the first semester that we've had those grant funds, and we've really tried to build together along with ANAPI SAP to strengthen our work both at Miramar and within the community. And I'll quickly highlight some of the things that we've been able to focus in on through Pearl and Lotus. I talked about the Pearl courses. We've started having achievement celebrations at the end of the semester, really celebrating the work of our students. We developed our AAPI employee resource group. We just opened up a center this fall, so we've only been open for about 2 months now, and it's creating communities and spaces for our students. We have a counselor coordinator who's connected to our programs, and again, really building collaborations throughout the campus. For the Lotus Grant, we just launched a Mind Arch survey in which we will learn more about some of the barriers or experiences our students are facing, and we'll use that data to really inform how to best support our students moving forward. Another thing in connection with ANAPI SAP is within the region, the colleges that do have the ANAPI-SAP program have been meeting, so that way we can look at how we can collectively support the community throughout San Diego. And so I know City will be hosting that later on this semester.
Thank you all for giving us some insight into the work that's being done. Without violating any privacy or individual student confidentiality, are there any anecdotes you can share, feedback from students, their experiences in these programs, in these spaces we're creating?
So I was raised in Barrio Logan in Southeast San Diego, which means that I've literally grown up and still live in the communities that we serve at San Diego City College. And when, it's funny, the worlds tend to collide sometimes, and I have 2 nieces who are in our program right now, in our ICANN program. One of them just recently lost her father, not even a month before classes started, but she was determined to take a full load of classes. She doesn't even drive yet. She takes the bus to City College, and she's doing her best. She's working with Josh, who's also our English C1000 instructor, and a couple of our other ICANN instructors to do what she can. Had she not had the support that we have through ICANN, I don't think we'd even see her at the college anymore. I think she would have left and dropped out already. But because we are wrapping around our care and our compassion and our comfort and promising her that she could do this, that she could be the first in her family to have a higher education, she's with us. She's staying, and she's going to see it through. So she's someone who's taking all of our classes, utilizing both our academic counseling. We're encouraging her to take our mental health counseling. It really does take a village to see our students succeed, and I'm just so honored to be proud of that and to literally see it with my own eyes in the people that I love and care about in our community.
Thank you for sharing that very personal story. What that really highlights for me is the persistence, the strength, the resolve. I mean, it's incredible what our students are capable of, what our community members are capable of. And this helps, I will hope, people to reframe thinking about some of these programs, which often can take on some very negative labels. These are investments. We're investing in people who are remarkable, and they can accomplish incredible things when we make that investment, which is why it's so important to me we continue to make the investments in these programs. Other anecdotes that we've heard feedback from students about their experience in the program, benefits, outcomes. I think anybody else wants to share?
So at Miramar, we had a student who was part of the first Pearl cohort, if you will. And I've seen that student get more invested with community, right? And then they were able to attend the PAHI conference and also connect with other colleges and students across the state that are now hired on to support our resource center on campus and are also serving as an ambassador for the Foundation for California, supporting basic needs and mental health. And so you can see how they've grown in their connection with the campus and the community and how they're serving their students. And I think it speaks to the value of the programs that we have.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Nisa.
And then I'll share one real quick. So I mentioned that I recently moved to San Diego. I told my friend that I was, and then she was like, "Oh, meet my boyfriend. He's a local. He'll introduce you to places where to move and live." And he gave me a recommendation about Mission Valley. And for him, his background status, he was a veteran, around my age, mid-30s, and he was just doing everyday work, construction and culinary. And he was trying to do graphic design at a for-profit school. But unfortunately, that for-profit school closed down. And then he was kind of asking for advice of where to go, what do I do, and everything. And I told him yeah, come to Mesa. And also, yeah, just come to reach out to the counselors and everything. And there was people that he was able to relate and connect to. And he never had that really cultural that cultural experience of taking an ethnic studies class, connecting, relating to faculty members. I'm still not trying to see names, maybe y'all know, but he also goes to City as well in regards to using the benefits and the resources. So I got just to see him in regards to just doing day-to-day jobs, and then have his school units not transferable, and then just finding better opportunities for him, just beyond of graphic design. Now he's looking into other options, and I think this is his year about transferring. So very promising.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. My final question for you as we close this panel out. You've got this opportunity to speak to me directly and tell me what is it that you would hope for, need, what investments can we make from the district to support the work you're doing in your programs? is your chance to advocate directly.
Oh. You know, I think one of the things that we really need support with is just building the infrastructure. Because building a program from the ground up it takes time, it takes resources, and so, you know, there's no perfect blueprint for how to build a program because we build it with intention to support the unique needs of our students, but having that support in terms of resources, whether that's finances or personnel, because without these grants, I'm not sure how we continue to support.
Yeah, and I'd echo what Nisa said in regards to infrastructure. So coming to Mesa, understanding the pulse of the college, understanding the pulse of like the community, the staff, and the faculty, of how many things were not done yet, and then just seeing the power of seeing, the potential that we unlocked, the partnerships that we're able to bring. The API population is very diverse. There's about 7 different groups, subgroups, whether it may be the MENA population, South Asian population, Southeast Asian, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, and San Diego is a very diverse community. So in regards to like investing more time to serve our community, that infrastructure of like staffing support is needed.
I think for me, it's also very similar. I'm a little newer to the SDCCD community. And so when I first came on, it was a lot of, really learning some of the processes, procedures of some of our infrastructure very quickly, only to have those change very quickly as well. And so I think personally, it's reviewing and taking a look at some of those policies and procedures and seeing where are these actually creating barriers towards our programmatic success, and what can we do to change them while still being able to uphold legality, of course, but also ensuring that it meets all the other requirements.
I want to acknowledge that I'm so grateful that our Chancellor and our district has committed to seeing us through till at least the end of spring. California is home to the largest API community in the nation, the largest home to Anapizis in the nation. I actually am the vice chair for the California Commission on Asian Pacific Islander American Affairs, which created the Anapi SAP, also working with Haku and Apahi to get more resources for all of our communities that have historically been left out of higher education in our classrooms. What we really need, though, is institutionalization. All of our classes are enrolling. There shows that there's need and there's interest. Our counselors' caseloads are up the wahoo. They are working a lot, as you know this, they're working so much more than we're requiring them to because they believe in what we're doing. They believe in our students and their capacity and the fact that they are going to be our leaders and already are. So if we can keep those beyond the grant funding and see the value of having English C1000 with an API perspective, of having an API studies course and not having to rely solely on just when we have external money, and to give our faculty and counselors that otherwise might not even have assignments, to give them the opportunity to stay with us and grow with us, that would mean so much to us and to our students.
Thank you. So as I say this, anybody in the room that has a question, we've got a microphone. Please go ahead and make your way up. But I want to go back to something that you said, Josh, that I'm absolutely committed to and want to take this opportunity to reiterate for everyone. A lot of what I've encountered in the California community colleges, and particularly in my time in HR, we have built things to be legally compliant. And then we worry about, does it actually serve students well? But legal compliance is first and most important. We need to flip that model. We need to build something that serves our communities really, really well, and then figure out how to tinker around the edges to make it legally compliant. It's a shift in culture and mindset, but I hear you. I want everybody to hear I am absolutely committed to that. I welcome every idea that would reverse that model and say, here's something that would serve our students really, really well. Now, you go work with legal and figure out how to make it compliant. I'm here for that work. And as far as institutionalizing, I am working on that at the state level, locally. I absolutely want to see, it may need to be packaged a bit differently as funding changes. But earlier today, I was with one of our assembly members talking about how we need funds to continue this if we can't count on the federal government. And right now, I don't feel like relying on them for anything. So how can our state support us in continuing this work? So I hear you loud and clear. I'm not seeing anyone come up with any questions. So then with that, let me say thank you for taking time out of your day, being here, sharing about your program. And Nisa, you really spotlighted, this is entrepreneurial work. For many of you to build something from scratch and to now be threatened with the funding's going to go away, there won't be another grant. Has all that been for nothing? It has not. And we will figure out how to continue this in some way, shape, or form. So thank you so much. Let's give a round of, oh, we do have a question. Yes, thank you. If you'll introduce yourself briefly to us and then.
Pretty well?
There we go.
Okay. Hi, my name's Felicia. I am a native in San Diego. I've attended the community college. I've graduated from City College. By my day job, I'm a nurse, so I'm in the healthcare business and all about wellness and things like that. But I do have a question for you. When we speak about a commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion, what does that look like in action? And could you describe what that commitment means to you and to the institution?
So let me answer that from a very high level, because it means a lot of different things at a very specific level happening around our campuses and individual interactions. But for me, that means that we value the individual and their lived experiences first. That when we talk about diversity, that can't be captured in 5 buckets of race and ethnicity that the federal government created. It's everything that you've experienced that brings you to us in this moment. And having a commitment to understanding how best I can serve you right now. And tailoring the way that I interact to the way that's going to facilitate your success. At a very broad level, if that is our culture, that we are deeply committed to understanding the individual and how to tailor our service to meet their needs, we can accomplish that in many different ways. And of course, there's so many different ways across our district that this is happening. There are specific programs and carve-outs. But at the core of it for me, it's valuing the humanity of each individual, loving the fact that you're here. Let me say thank you for your work as a nurse. I know during COVID it was popular to thank nurses, and we've stopped that as if your work became less important.
Yeah.
But seeing and valuing the individual.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another question.
Hello, my name is Masha Melnick, and I'm an administrative assistant here in the Business and IT department. On the topic of supporting our students, I was wondering if any of you could share about strategies you use to help students get through the enrollment process, since I'm not really sure about the difference between the credit and non-credit, but I know at least here it's super confusing and a lot of students drop off. So do you do anything like, I don't know, like workshops to help the students enroll on the spot, or flyers, or just anything you can share?
So if I may, I'm going to take this first. So I won't lie, I am right there with you. There's so many different, things, different systems that we are required to know when we work with students, and sometimes I also forget them as well. And so our school, we do offer enrollment workshops and whatnot, but on a personal level, when I have a student walk in, and I've had them a couple of times because my office is kind of in a high traffic area, and they ask me a question like enrollment where I'm not sure, my first thing to do is I'll try and problem solve it with them. I phrase it kind of like, hey, I don't know, but let's try and learn this together. And I'm also willing to A, call somebody I do know, B, I'm also willing to do like a warm handoff. So if they want it, of course, I'll ask the student if they would prefer to just get directions from me, or because of the way that City College is laid out, I don't mind also just walking them to somebody that I know who can help them. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
We have our Welcome Center as well, and that's so much of just the work they do. You have to realize, a lot of our students, you can show them a video, you can show them ways to do it, but there is a comfort to literally sitting next to someone and being shown how to do it. Nothing beats that, honestly. And for the folks who are more online inclined, there are videos that our Welcome Center provides, but having that place where they can go sit down with an outreach worker and literally go through the website and the process, because all of their registration dates differ, depending on what program they're on, they differ. Nothing beats having that human interaction to help guide them along.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you.
We'll do one more question, and then we'll move to our HSI panel. Hello.
How are you? Tasha Williamson with Excelling in Justice podcast. Thank you all for being here. What percentage of your population that you serve is mixed race with African and Black American? And then I have another statement.
I'm so happy you answered that question because this is an issue that we have. California is a state of Mexicanos, for example. We have so many people that are multiracial in our nation. And so on the federal side, there's a system called IPEDS, and that's what determines our demographics. And it does not capture the accuracy of the multiple identities of our students. If you mark other, if you mark Black, African American, and Filipino, for example, you get placed in other. You become invisibilized. That is another issue that we've been facing. Luckily, we're in the state of California, thank goodness. Here, we do allow the institutions to come up with their own data. We all have institutional effectiveness and research offices that are dedicated to disaggregating that data so that our multiracial people are not invisibilized and so that they don't have to choose what their ethnicities are. So earlier I had mentioned when we first did this data run, we only showed 11, 13% for City College. We're actually closer to 20 and even more percentage-wise for us. I don't know how my colleagues, where you are percentage-wise. And that's only with people who have API as one of their identities. But it's probably even more than what we're able to capture at this point.
Thank you, and this was an amazing panel. Chancellor, to you, I'm a former student. I would like to know when you will have a town hall for Black people. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. All right, with that, let's transition to our HSI panel. Thank you so much. Now's the time we can give a round of applause. Thank you all for making the time. As we transition panels, we're going to debut a video that spotlights the work being done in our HSI programs. I had a chance to take a look at this yesterday, I think. This is beautiful work, so if we can cue up the video, we'll get our panels transitioned. But everybody take a moment to watch this.
Right now, there's a lot of political scrutiny in terms of minority-serving institution and Hispanic-serving institution funding. A lot of the rhetoric says that it's about giving free handouts to students, and that's not necessarily the case. It's about providing a space and a place for students who have historically never had that opportunity, especially in STEM and in higher education. And so I think that is a huge component of why we need our Title III HSI program, especially here at City College. We serve a majority population of minoritized students.
The STEM Center started as this little room over here to the side back in about 2017, funded by our previous HSI grant. We outgrew really quickly into this wide open space. Our current HSI grant is a STEM E-cubed. E-cubed is equity, excellence, e-éxito, which means success. Previous grant was also a Title III STEM grant. That was STEM Conexiones. That's the one that built this space. And then we had another HSI grant before that that was Proyecto Éxito. So we have 14 years of HSI grants that have really developed programs that we have sustained across the campus. And so all of that funding really sets the groundwork for these programs that we know are successful for the Latina community particularly, but really successful for everybody.
When I first got here, I didn't know where to go. Through awesome faculty, I found out about this place, and it's kind of been my home base ever since. So the goal is to have it be home base for other people too, and just feeling like they have somewhere to go.
As a first-generation college student from a low-income background, it was really hard for me to navigate at least my first year at university. So I had to go seek out these spaces. It wasn't as collaborative as this space right now. And so I really draw from my own personal experiences with these inequities, these challenges, to really mold this space to be conducive of student success, whether you're a first year, whether you're non-traditional, for a variety of diverse students. And I really draw from my personal experiences to create these spaces, these workshops, events.
It's just another way to be able to engage our students and connect them with programs and services, and for them to feel that sense of belonging and build community.
We're here to support them and give as much educational support as we can, but our jobs are also encompassing how do we teach them how to study in groups, how to connect them with other students, and do a lot more of the college stuff that you don't learn in class. The groundwork, you know.
Now I get counseling maybe every 2 weeks if I need it. I get an ed plan every semester that I can rely on and make sure that I do my classes and have the classes that I need for the semester, and especially to graduate.
I'm peer mentoring for Physics 195 as well as 196. I will say a lot of the time the hardest part about physics isn't necessarily the math, but it's setting up that equation. Working with physics, one of the hardest subjects in school, but I'm biased when I say that, but also one of the most fun subjects, and just makes me feel better of like either helping myself to solve a hard problem or seeing a student smile when it finally clicks for them and helping them solve that problem. It really just makes me happy to go to work every day, which I'm very, very grateful to be able to say.
We are building an RC plane from scratch using the Arduino platform. So it's coding, wiring, soldering, all that stuff. Where we couldn't do any of that stuff, now we can thanks to this space. It's given us a place where we can meet and collaborate. There's a bunch of tools here where our project went from a 6-month-long project. It's cut it down to 2 months now, thanks to this space.
Providing culturally affirming spaces for students, for them to be seen, for their experiences to be reflected in how the space is organized and the types of events and programs that we put on is really critical to student success. For all of our students, being exposed to different cultures and diverse students and experiences have been really valuable as well.
Thank you to everyone that was involved in producing that video, participating in that video, including some of our panelists. What an excellent overview of some really incredible work doing. We have our panel here, so let's start with Claudia, introductions, and then we'll get into the data about the program you'd like to share.
Absolutely. Perfect. So my name is Claudia Diaz Carrasco. I'm the Dean for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Anti-Racism, Accessibility, and Social Justice at City College.
Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Tony Trejo Parsons. I am our HSI Title III STEM Grant Director at Mesa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ivan Baldovinos. I'm the Director of HSI STEM at Miramar College.
Hello, I'm Nisa Julian, Dean of Lead and Equity at Miramar.
So I'm really thankful for this opportunity to be here. I want to share what some of the work that we have done at City College in the last 4.5 years that we have our HSI grant. A lot of it becomes like federal terminology, and many times this becomes about funding. But I actually applied to Yosoy STEM to be the director for this grant at City College like 3 weeks ago because I care. I'm an engineer. I was born and raised in Mexico, and then I came to the U.S. with an engineering degree, and apparently being a woman in engineering was like unheard. Being a bilingual woman was unheard, and people like kids in the schools, like my own students, when I was a faculty member, was like, what was different about you? And what was different is that I have a family that believed in me, that I grew up in an educational system where I was not a minority, right? I was Mexican living in Mexico in one of like the top tier schools. And so that really, like when I saw that City College wanted to do Yosoy STEM, I was like, I want to be there, right? I want to be the director, being able to see. And so what it really, these HSI grants, particularly when I had City College, is about STEM success, right? It's about increasing these objectives, like 5 years that we get this special funding, for lack of a better word, to say, how can we increase our STEM student completion rates, right? How can we increase the 3-year transfer rate? What else can we do so there is more STEM degrees and certificates awarded? And I think particularly in the scrutiny that we're living in right now, nobody is against completion. Nobody is against transfer. Nobody is against awarding degrees to students in San Diego that need them to have a professional career. And so for me, so thankful for the opportunity to highlight some of the stuff that we have doing. At City College, some of our grant is set up in both instructional and uninstructional objectives. On the instructional side, what we have been trying to do is to redesign a foundational STEM courses, and I'm happy to report that these were the courses that had the most challenging for our students, our low income and our Hispanic students. So our DFW rates, our the fail and completions were low. So we redesigned the whole courses, work with the faculty, receive professional development to say like, what can we build a system that works for you, right? And so we finished the completion of the 8 foundational STEM courses. Another need that we had at City College was just study spaces, right? Like, so through the support of the HSI grant, we're able to refurbish and renovate 4,219 square feet of study spaces right in our science building in the first, second, third, fourth floors. Now there are like study spaces where students can come every day without relying on someone to open a door for them, just to be able to sit quietly to do their STEM work. You were able to see in the video like our new STEM makers space, right? So a lot of like the hands-on experiential learning that has to happen in STEM careers like needs to happen in a space, right? And so we were able to create this new space that actually hosts student appointments just to do kind of one-on-one projects, but we also host like internships in this space. And so some of the things that we have learned through the pilots at the Osoyo STEM is like students need to work on campus and they need to work on things that are related to their future major and career. And so the more that we can build a system that we can provide as in-house, the least barriers that our students have to experience as they navigate that process. And so similar to what you have seen in other forums, like these grants provide like really comprehensive support services on study sessions, right? We're piloting like for the Latino community, it's important to do things on group, so it's less challenging for students to work into a group study session versus going to like a one place on their own with one questions they have for crypto. So we are able to say like, what impact does this have to actually host group study tutoring sessions, right? As I mentioned, like internships has been really important for STEM careers. So through the grant, we have been able to develop a partnership with UCSD where our City College students go into the summer and have an 8 to 10 weeks internship at one of the UCSD labs. This couldn't be happening without the support of this grant, and so we're just really thankful that we are in a district who supports the work, that regardless what happened at the federal level, we are committed. So I'm sure we're going to hear about more experiences from Tony and Ivan.
May I have the clicker, please? Thank you. Turn it the right way. Okay. Thank you again for this space to share. You heard in the video, Mesa College has had 14 years of HSI grants. We've had 3 in a row. Their logos are up there. 2 of them have been Title III STEM, back to back, and I have been the manager of both. I was very involved with the first one as well, back when I was math faculty. So a little bit like Claudia's background, I am also a Latina in STEM. And I will age myself. I started college in the early 90s, and not one woman in any one of my classes. I never had a female instructor, and very few Latinos. And so the representation piece was what called me to education, which called me to higher education. And just really, and that's also why I'm really invested in these grants particularly, because they serve the population that I was once part of, and looking and working to diversify the STEM fields, not only increase the STEM workforce, but to diversify them as well. So what we have done, I'm not going to read everything because it's a lot, but what's important about what you see on the screen right now, the Title V grant, Proyecto Éxito, and the Title III STEM Conexiones, is these are things that have been already institutionalized. So there has been a commitment at Mesa not only to achieve these grants, but really embed them in the culture of the campus. And so that is really what we are pushing for more. Our current grant, the Title III STEM E-Cubed grant, is so much. It's all listed there, and I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to just highlight some of the greater points. Our peer mentoring program is really our elite program. It's the highest impact program. We identified STEM gateway courses that had the largest equity gaps, and created a peer mentoring. It goes a little bit further than academic support. So tutoring is a piece of this, but so is wraparound services, and more importantly, creating that community and sense of belonging for all of our students. The largest thing that keeps people of color and women out of STEM is the competition piece, the stigma that I have to be better than everybody else, that I'm in it against you, and then that there's no community in it. And so that was really what we intended to do when we created our STEM Center, you saw in the video, was really about what does that collaborative learning look like, and what does that STEM community look like, and how do we invite you in so that you belong and show you that you belong. You'll see what I have highlighted here particularly is that our peer mentoring program, this is attendance by head count. Yes, the focus of our grant is for our Latina community, but the focus for our grant is creating activities that we know benefit that community, that benefit all. So what I wanted to highlight here is that the breakdown of the ethnicities that engage with peer mentoring actually almost matches our breakdown across the campus. And so we are serving literally everybody across the campus equitably with these programs. And what I want to highlight here, if we can, is the success rates. So we looked at the success rates of those students that engage with the peer mentoring program in these courses against those that have not engaged. You will see on top in fall 2024, our African American mentees had 21% percentage points higher success rates than non-mentees. We shattered that equity gap. Went straight from the red all the way over to the green. We did the same in spring 25 with our Latina community, an 18 percentage point jump. So these programs are shattering equity gaps. They're working, and if you actually look at this carefully, every single ethnicity group is actually benefiting from these programs. I did bring some testimonials really quick. That picture is from the original STEM Center, Little Top Place, and I'm just gonna read one of them, and I'm gonna read the STEM scholarship one because it kind of highlights some things that have already been said. The faculty commitment to equity in the STEM Center gave me hope that I'd not only transfer, but thrive. I'm proof that investing in students of color works. This particular student actually works for me now as a peer mentor. She won my scholarship. She's also a foster youth. She's also an abuse survivor. And when she won my scholarship, she had gotten a very serious car accident and couldn't come to the scholarship banquet. So when you talk about perseverance and resistance, persevering through all of these things, she is a great testimonial to that.
Hello, everyone. Ivan again here, Director of HSI STEM Éxito at Myanmar College. So as my colleagues talked about earlier, I'm also a first-generation low-income student, and I'm not from the region, so I'm actually from Washington State, rural Washington State to be exact. And so when I was going to college, I went to a PWI institution, which meant that there was not that many Latino students at my university. And so like you saw in the video, a lot of the work that I do here with STEM Éxito is really drawn from those experiences. What would I have wanted when I was at these schools that don't really support Latino students the way that I see fit, right? And so using those experiences is really how we shaped STEM Éxito at Myanmar College. And so when I first started at Myanmar College 2 years ago, I gathered a team and I wanted to come up with a model. Like, what do we want to commit to our students? And so on the screen here, you'll see the model. And we came up with empowering Latina, Latino, Latinx STEM students and their sueños through intentional, culturally responsive support services and opportunities. And so the work that we're doing at Myanmar College is really intentional. We really want to highlight those assets that Latino students bring to the campus, because when I first arrived there, I didn't see that myself. And then also given my personal experiences, I wanted to give a different experience to these students at Myanmar College. So at Myanmar College, we have roughly around 31% Latina, Latino, Latinx students on our campus. When I arrived at Myanmar College 2 years ago, visibly, I did not see that many Latino students in the STEM department. And so one of my goals right off the bat was to really build this sense of belonging, this culture of what we see in the literature, HSI servingness, because I wanted to attract these Latino students to our campus in the physical sense, because I wasn't seeing that when I first arrived. And so a lot of the work that we do is intentional because we think that, or what my team, we like to focus on community building, sense of belonging, because we think that if we establish that sense of belonging in community, that we will see these metrics rise, right? The transfer, the graduation, the retention metrics rise if we focus on the community part. And so through our programming, on the screen you'll see that we offer a STEM Student Center, we offer tutoring for STEM Gateway courses, which are those introductory courses that usually weed out students. We offer research and internship opportunities, STEM counselors, a mentor program to connect faculty and mentors to students. And then at the end, we established what we're calling an Éxito Comunidad, and that really is our effort to finding these Latino STEM students, getting them into the same space, and really helping them grow as STEM students, feel comfortable in STEM spaces so they can achieve success and increase those metrics that I talked about earlier, the retention, graduation, and transfer rates. And so through our programming, we do focus on sense of belonging. And we've done this through a couple of ways. So when I first started, we actually brought Gina Garcia, which is one of the leading scholars on HSI-Servingness, to our campus. And that was intentional because I wanted to really establish this HSI-Servingness environment at Miramar College, which was a little lacking at the beginning when I first started there. And so bringing this speaker to our campus really helped us start those conversations on what does it look like to really support these Latino STEM students and just Latino students in general intentionally. And so that was the first thing that I did once I got on campus, is really start these conversations, bring these experts, and start these, and have these workshops throughout. That way we're able to continue to do the work and really be intentional with the servingness aspect at Miramar College. Additionally, I started the Comunidad, which what we call the Éxito Comunidad program on our campus, because like I mentioned earlier, it was hard for me to visually see where the Latino students were at. And so my team, we ended up starting this community. Right now we have about 50 members, all Latino STEM students, because we are really targeting the intentionality behind serving Latino students, which sometimes fades away when we look at the literature on HSI work. And we wanted to be really intentional with our practice. We also collaborate across campus because we believe that HSI servingness doesn't just belong in the STEM department, and our grant is focused on STEM students. And so I intentionally work with departments across campus to really diffuse HSI servingness across the campus. And so I'm gonna let Nisa here kind of talk a little bit about our collaborations, because I do a lot with the lead office and Nisa's office.
So really quickly, we like to support the work that Ivan and his team has been working on to support our students, partnering with transfer, going on different trips to, I believe, UCLA, things of that nature. Or now that we have a resource center to support our Latinx students, holding space at the resource center, collaborating on those different events. We held a couple just this past month. And so we want to continue to foster that sense of community and belonging, and let our students and community know that there are multiple spaces on campus where they can build community.
And just really quickly, our work is actually, it's working. Our equity mindedness is working, and you see this with we got a national award through the Insight into Academia as a 2025 Inspiring Programs in STEM Award, which really highlights our equity work. And so we know that being intentional, being culturally responsive, and really seeking to transform the lives of our Latino students is working when you're intentional. And the result of that work has been this award that we were able to achieve in just 3 years of having this grant. I forgot to mention earlier that this grant is actually the first HSI grant on our campus as well. And so we're really developing that infrastructure to really support these Latino students. So hopefully in the future we continue to support and be intentional with the support of these students.
Thank you all for covering that. I'm going to ask one question in the interest of time. So this is the cue. Anybody that here would like to ask a question, you can make your way to the microphone. I appreciate in the video we spotlighted some students and their voice. You included it in some of the slides. So I'll change the question. You each talked about providing professional development and support for our faculty in this work. Can you give some examples of what that support looks like, or feedback you've heard from faculty around that professional development?
At City College, we are doing this in a cohort base, and so a lot of the cultural responsive pedagogy really marks of like getting yourself to. And so the feedback that I have heard from the faculty in our cohort is that, similar to what Anna PC panel is saying, like it just starts with like an immersion into what's the culture and what are the expectations, but really following up with that cohort support in a monthly basis, because as they are like in our faculty learning community, we first explore our faculty's own identities, and that's the feedback whereas like, I never realized, nobody has asked me, I have never had an opportunity in my whole career of navigating where does my beliefs come from, who I am, and so they find that like dedicated space at the beginning just to self-reflect on themselves. That's what allowed what Ivan was saying about intentionality, but then as they encounter the bumps in the road, they need that additional support, right? Like our faculty members are also learning, right? And so like in the monthly check-ins, it's like kind of like this breath of like, I reacted in a way that I was not culturally responsive. Can I get some feedback? And so I think I want to emphasize the cohort nature of professional development. That is not a one-off, what we have seen successful, at least in our experiences at City.
I appreciate you highlighting the humility that goes into this work. No one will ever be perfect. It's the feedback, the receptiveness to it, the pursuit of growth that is critical in this. Were you going to say something, Dr. Parsons?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you actually asked this question because I was thinking about that. So one of the objectives of the STEM Cubed grant is professional development and increasing the number of unique participants in professional development, particularly culture-based, STEM-specific. So we have, our goal was to hit 75 people by the end of year 5. We have hit 80 already. And this is faculty and staff and student workers that have been engaged in culturally relevant, around the Latinx experience, professional development. We brought Escala. Some of you may have heard of Escala, is a nationally known HSI-specific professional development organization. And so Escala came and designed a 3-day workshop for us, 3-day intensive. They came to the campus and worked, and we had 43, just at that event alone, we had 43 individuals, including counselors, including some of the peer mentors. You saw 2 of them on the thing, but peer mentors were in there. We had the student voice. But what was more important is that we also, Escala has a facilitation training where they train people to be facilitators of their curriculum, so you don't have to pay their high price all the time. And so we also had 6 people on the campus trained that go along with the other, I want to say another half a dozen on the campus that have already been trained, including myself. So now we have done a subsequent workshop, and now it's in home. And so that's how we've kind of worked on the sustainability of that piece. And I'm just going to throw this out. Our professional development center on campus, the Loft, and the positions in there were born out of our first HSI grant. So this is all coming full circle in support of our faculty to serve our communities.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I want to go to, we have at least 2 questions here in the room before we close this panel out. Welcome back.
Thank you, Tasha Williamson again. I want to say thank you for all that you are doing. What are you all doing to engage with students who will be entering into your college campuses to support them with STEM? And then also, the same question, do you know what the ratio is of students who are darker complexion Hispanics with maybe African and Black American backgrounds as well?
So I didn't mention, but some of the things that we have been able to do doing in City College is a summer bridge program for STEM that has like a STEM and a non-STEM track. And so we host like 8 different days in the summer, like a full day where students come and learn all about the admission process. So like our non-STEM track focuses just on how to get into City College, navigating our own services. And we have found that students who come to Summer Bridge, then they enroll in the courses, and then they do an internship, and then they want to become those tutors, right? And so I feel that entry level, like intensive 1 day, get to know everybody, like it's something that we need to continue to do.
Go ahead.
At Miramar College, we also have a Summer Bridge program, and the way that we designed it, because our focus is the high school to college pipeline. So we work with the local high schools in our service area to attract students to our Summer Bridge program. Our Summer Bridge program is a little smaller, so it's only a 3-day track that's focused on STEM students. And the goal of that pipeline is for us to have them start at Summer Bridge before they even start classes at Miramar College, and then transition over to our Comunidad, which is our more culturally based, identity-focused cohort program that we've started. And so that pipeline really helps just kind of support these Latino STEM students from the onset before they even start at Miramar College to the end through graduation. We also offer a different type of Summer Bridge program that's more focused on skills-based learning in the classroom. So we work with our faculty members at Miramar College in our biology, physics, and chemistry and math, and they host boost camps, and so we attract students to those boost camps to prepare them for STEM classes in their first year.
And then we have, again, born out of our first HSI grant is our summer cruise program. Cruise stands for Creating Rich, Unique, Intellectual Student Experiences. And what we have done now with this new grant is we created Path to STEM Success, and now we have partnered with Cruise. And so students go through their regular cruise program. It's 4 weeks, different cohorts, and they come for different days. But they, so on Tuesday and Wednesday of that week, after they do their regular overall part of cruise, they can choose if they're STEM majors to do the STEM part, and then we have a very specific STEM orientation for them. We meet in the STEM center. They get a tour of all our spaces. They get to meet faculty. They get to meet our STEM counselor, and all those things. So we've partnered with them and incorporated it in that way.
Okay, we have one more question, and then we'll transition to our final panel.
I do have a question, but I just wanted to check. I don't think that the latter part of your question was answered.
I do not know, unfortunately, in the mixed race. I do know, and I didn't have that data, I do know that on my campus, since I have been in this position, those students that identify as Latine has increased from about 36% possibly to 43% this year, and it's the fastest growing. I do not have the breakdown in my head, although we do monitor those. I just don't have it, I'm sorry.
What was the other question? Can you? Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Thank you. I've really enjoyed seeing these panels that are at our credit institutions, and as someone who's at non-credit, I get excited thinking about these kinds of programs coming to our campuses, and I wonder how you see maybe being able to, when that happens, or how you can mentor our own and help develop our own programs. And I'm also thinking about Dr. King and her work with bringing Assembly Bill 1433, and if there are plans for the institution to support those further efforts. It didn't pass this most recent time, but I'm hoping it can. So I guess there's maybe a couple questions there, but how do you see your role in mentoring maybe CE or wishing us well, and also just bringing some of that funding to fruition? Thank you.
So I'll take the first part of that question, or the second part of that question. Very frustrating to see AB 1433 held in appropriations, and when that happens, it's behind a closed door, basically. We don't get an explanation of this is why. Had a chance to connect with Dr. Lachey Sharp-Collins earlier in the fall. She's committed to bringing it back, which I am gratefully appreciative of. And I was going to say this as we transition into the next panel, that the reason we don't have an HSI grant or an ANAPESI grant or these programs at the College of Continuing Education, because this hierarchy in higher education of credit being one thing and non-credit being something else. And these are programs that the federal government only recognizes for credit colleges. So your question about, as we can expand, how do we mentor is an important one. But for 1433, no, we will not stop. And if the bill fails again this time, we'll be back a third time. First step is to have the state of California actually recognize CCE as a college. When you hear 116 colleges in our system, North Orange Continuing Education and the College of Continuing Education, fully accredited colleges, are not counted in those numbers. So I correct everybody and say, no, it's 118. So first step is getting recognition. Second step, getting funding on all the things that are tied to financial aid that we don't get funded on. And then third step would be implementation. So I can't predict what that timeline will be, but I guarantee as long as I'm here, I will be doing that work until it happens alongside President King and others. But on the line of mentorship, I think in the interest of time, because I want to bring up Fatima, I'll say that if and when that moment comes, we will absolutely be leaning on each other, as we do in so many other spaces, to create a district-wide community around how can we support students, learn from each other, share resources. So we'll get that first step done and then go to work on that second step. With that, thank you so much for joining us, sharing about your program. Thank you for the work you're doing. And as we transition, we'll bring Fatima Moto up. As we were just talking about, the College of Continuing Education does not have HSI or ANAPISI designations, and we're working hard to see that the Black Serving Institution program is implemented in a way that does recognize the College of Continuing Education. But obviously what continues to be an extremely high priority throughout the college is immigration enforcement. And we did, back in the spring, we did a panel focusing on the work being done in our Dreamer Resource Centers, but wanted to have Fatima come back to share more about the Immigrant Student Success Program, the work that she's doing, and continue to reassure everyone this is very high on our list of priorities and concerns, and I'll talk a bit about it at the end, but if you'll introduce yourself and then give us an overview of the work that you're doing to support our students.
Good evening, Chancellor Smith. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well today. I am Fatima Mota, and I have the honor of being the counselor and coordinator for our Immigration Student Success Program at San Diego College of Continuing Education, also known as ISSP. I want to begin by thanking our college leadership, Dr. Tina King, Dr. Shakira Carter, our faculty, our staff, our community partners, because with them, we make everything possible. This is a struggle, this is work, this is dedication, and it's not just by one person, it is not just by one department, it is by an entire community coming together as a college, as a people that have the heart to do the work. So thank you very much. In my role as a counselor, I assist our students with one-on-one counseling sessions. As Chancellor Smith mentioned, we are going through very difficult times. Our political climate has been struggling, our students have been struggling significantly. We have been seeing at the ISSP how our students are being scared, how the fear of our students walking outside of their homes, the fear of our students going to work, the fear of our students sending their children to school, sending to the marketplace. These are things that are real. Our students are facing real challenges in our real time. They're texting each other every 5 to 10 minutes to make sure that they are getting to the places that they need to be. This is work. This is education. Going back home if they're being safe. At ISSP, we're here, we're committed. We provide legal assistance for our students. We are bringing legal assistance to both Mid-City and our Cesar Chavez campus. These are free legal clinics that are partnership with our Jewish families, if it is with PANA, with Alliance San Diego, with Ginger and Jacobs Law Firm. They're coming to our campuses for free to assist our students in a space where our students feel safe. Many of our students do not feel safe going to school, but they come to our colleges, they come to our center because they know that we are there to support them. They come to the center, ISSP, knowing that there's going to be people there to help them navigate not only legal resources, but also mental health resources. We have a beautiful Be Well Center at our 7 campuses, and they can access those as well as working with the family legal clinics, family health centers, At Cesar Chavez, we have had the honor of actually working together with the Family Logan Health Clinic, where our students that don't have medical services are actually able to be served because they're human beings. There is a lot going on. I'm very honored to be the coordinator with my team because, like I said, it's not just me alone. We make magic happen. We started off in April with legal clinics when everything was at its high, working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Mid-City. Also working in collaboration with faculty, coming together as one to provide these services. Our students are coming to us needing help with immigration support, with work permits, with health issues, with food insecurities, with housing insecurities. We are meeting every student's need as much as we possibly can. If we don't know the answer, we definitely find the answer for our students. Every student that comes to us leaves with something in their hands. We have students. I have a couple of examples. We have an elderly student that visits our Cesar Chavez Center on a daily basis. He attends classes every single day. And he comes to us because that's where he feels home. He recently was being abused both mentally, emotionally, and verbally. What we did at the ISP Center is we made a phone call, but we didn't stop there. We wrote a nice little letter to the director of the shelter where he is at. Now he's being treated and seen as a human being. That's the purpose of ISSP. Every student that comes to us needs to be seen, valued, and heard. We are all human, we all matter, we all have a voice, and those of us that are working together to make sure that the students that are working on their voice, that they're being heard. We have another student who recently actually was accepted at USD to begin his career or his education as an attorney. He comes from Afghanistan and did not know where to begin. Through our assistance at ISSP, we help with the evaluation process. We help with the transferring process. We help with him getting the financial resources that he needs to make sure that all his examinations are being covered so that he can attend USD. Then we connect him to someone at USD, a real life person. We make that connection. And we have a Zoom meeting. So then that student now has a familiar face when he arrives to campus, who he is going to be talking to. Our partnership, like I mentioned, with Jewish families, with Gingers and Jacobs Law Firm, with Bana, with the Lion San Diego. I appreciate every single one of them because every single one of them has been with us in this struggle. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that we're working together to make sure that our children are being safe. When our students come to us and their parents, because we serve immigrant, refugee, and international students, when they come to us and they say that their husband's being detained in California and have been taken away to the state of Arizona and do not have legal representation because no one will help them, then our team, ISSP, helps them find an attorney, which we have, thank God. We found an attorney that is actually going to help them now. We'll be following up with them next week to see what the process is. We sent letters of recommendation to make sure that that student is now being given the opportunity to have legal counsel. When our students are being counseled in their own language, I say that's equity. Dr. Dean Garrett has given us the contract or the partnership with native interpreters. Our students are being served in their own language. If that is in Russian, if that's in Spanish, if that is in Tagalog, if that is in Haitian Creole, if that is in French, in whatever language that they need, Arabic, they're being served. And that's very important, because then our students come back to us, because they know that there's someone there that's going to be speaking in the language that they comprehend and that they matter. When our international students have a question about their legal case and they get the answer, that's inclusion. When a refugee parent learns about the educational resources that their child can actually have, that's educational transformation. We had a student who was taking classes. She recently graduated at Continuing Ed, Cesar Chavez. We helped them transfer to City College and helped her son do the dual enrollment to City College and the San Diego High School. So now parent and son will be going together to school. Thank you, Chancellor Smith. I know we're short on time. There's so much more that I would like to say, but I appreciate every single one of you. Everyone is important for ISSP. If it is CalWorks, Be Well, our Gateway, our Pathway, our Raising Scholars, every organization, every job developer, every person is important, because it's all of us at San Diego Continuing Education that we do the work and allows us to move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Fatima. The commitment that you have for this work is so evident, and I am so grateful that you are there to interact with our students and have them know the institutional commitment through the interpersonal way that you connect and engage. Had a couple questions come in, and we'll make time, even though we are over time, for one question here in the room if there is one, so that's the cue if someone has one. But I want to address some of the questions that came in. There were a couple of themes to it, and one of those themes was around how we are preparing institutionally for, as I said at the town hall earlier this semester at CE, when ICE comes, not if anymore, is the way we're preparing. And the question was more about the manner in which they may show up. And we have policies and procedures and relationships for the usual way immigration enforcement would happen, which would be the agency contacting our college police department, providing the legal documentation up front, coordinating to minimize any disruption. That's what normal looks like. But we have seen footage from across the country of people in unmarked vehicles who are not identifying themselves, very heavily armed, forcing their way in. And so the question was, are we prepared for that? We have been preparing for that. One, though, I want to acknowledge that if somebody heavily armed comes and tries to force their way in, I do not expect anyone in our district to put themselves between that person and whatever it is that they think they're going to do. We may not be able to control, under the threat of that kind of violence, what someone chooses to do. In the event that that happens, the way that the notification would come out would very much look like how a notification during an active shooter situation would come out. So if you had not yet downloaded, logged into the SDCCD Safe app, please do. Update your information in PeopleSoft. There is a tool called Rave that we are rolling out that allows us to push out text notifications, email notifications, Teams notifications in real time to everybody who's signed up. And so we could send very quickly the message that this is happening, what status we do and don't know, and then with any specific direction that may come with that. We have done contingency planning for when I arrive to tell whoever those individuals are they are not permitted on our campus until they show us some legal documentation, that I'll be arrested for impeding a federal enforcement action, and then what happens next? Who steps in to lead the district? How does legal counsel get involved? The policy and these steps have been put into place to provide, I hope, legal recourse for the district and for the individuals, employees, students, or community members involved. So if they choose to violate district policy, we want to be able to go and make the argument that they have obtained this information or these individuals through an illegal search and seizure. That when they did not follow district policy, they did not get permission, they have violated state law. We put a lot of layers in place. Whether caught is successful in the court, we don't control, but the ability to bring those kinds of challenges and push back on it, we can control and we have put into place. So you will see more about RAVE, the SAFE app, the way the communications would come, but I just want to reassure to the extent that we can be reassured, yes, we have been thinking about and contingency planning for the most aggressive form of enforcement that we may see in our campuses. And then second, before we go to our questions, I want to thank all of our faculty at the College of Continuing Education who very quickly have moved into high flex modalities so that students could choose to come in person, to log in synchronously, to watch a recording later, so that if on Tuesday they feel secure coming to the campus in person, they can, but if on Thursday that's changed, they have other options. It has been critical in keeping students connected. I know that is a lot of work for our faculty to do, our instructional support staff working alongside our faculty, and that has been critical alongside the resources that you pointed to. With that, let's go to our questions and then we'll close out. You're just getting the levels in the back, you should be good.
Hello, Fatima, thank you so much for the work that you do and the people that you work with that they do as well. Thank you for what you said as well, putting your body on the line. Federal prison is not as easy as people would think, which is where you would go if they take you. My question to you, and then I also have a statement, is that we have a number of people that are in the community that are putting their bodies on the line every day, that are standing in between criminal agents that work for the federal government, that are violating the U.S. Constitution. And we understand that there is a party that is more like a regime that is using its will to see how far the people will allow it to go. And we are a small group across the United States, but we are becoming a mighty group of collaborative organizations and individuals that are standing up to what you talk about is more like the Gestapo, where they are not only violating the United States Constitution, but they are using excessive force. And so we are asking for institutions like yourself to push back with us and to stand up. Chicago has said that they will arrest ICE agents who violate the law, because what we understand is that local law enforcement can arrest federal agents when they violate the law. And so we're hoping that you will push that when you talk to local law enforcement. We hope that your officers will be able to push that as well when they violate the law, because any officer who violates the law can be arrested by any officer who has a duty to intervene, a duty to investigate, and a duty to arrest when they do so. I want to know if you guys are tracking the number of students that are no longer coming to school, the number of students that have been taken, the number of families that have been displaced. Because what is happening is a large scale. San Diego has the highest rate of detentions and deportations above the national average. Let that sink in.
That is a great question. And we are working on actually seeing and following up. Well, to answer your question, we follow up with our students. We don't have the format yet, and we're working to obtaining it on how we can better follow up with our students to know exactly have they been detained, have what's going on with their families, how we can better support their children, their wives, their husband, their parents, their siblings, because it goes more than just a student. So at San Diego Continuing Education, I forgot to mention, we also serve the student and their families. So we follow up as ISSP, we follow up, we try to do it on a 2-week basis. If I don't hear from them, I'm following up because I know, okay, this student is supposed to be here, and we have a way of knowing that. So we do follow up with them. And when our students also reach out to us, a friend, because we're building a community, like I mentioned, the friend might tell us, hey, this is what's going on, and they need this support. And that's how we're also able to support our students. Great question, by the way.
I'll just say briefly, the City of San Diego recently adopted an ordinance clarifying all the ways in which it will not participate in supporting federal enforcement actions. I don't recall off the top of my head if it went so far as to directing SDPD to arrest federal officers who violate the law. I'll go back and look at that, but our board was part of supporting that, adopted a resolution, went to a couple press events around that. So know that our board is very much committed to the spirit of what you were sharing, and I'll look into the legal part about our local law enforcement.
Yeah, the ordinance doesn't say that.
Okay, it does not.
The law says that. So there's laws in place. They can arrest a federal agent if they do a DUI on or off duty. So you can arrest a federal agent if they violate any law, state, local, or federal, in your presence.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back and look into the legalities of that. We'll do as quickly as we can, one more question, and then close out.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to say thank you, Fatima. I get a small glimpse of all that you are doing in your work, and it is absolutely incredible. I am asking this as an ESL teacher at Mid-City campus in the evenings. I'm going to be going soon to go teach. And Chancellor Smith, do you remember the campus you identified as the #1 ICE target at the convocation? It was Mid-City, and it sounds like there are processes and steps in place, and I wonder if there's a way to get some information to even our campus operations supervisor, Karen King, about maybe what happens when campus police arrives, what happens when these arrive, because there are the 4 steps in place. I appreciate that that is there. I'm very grateful that you're taking those steps, but I also want to know more about, like, what are the legal protections? If we hear that ICE is on campus and we close the door, are we interfering with police, like campus police? Are we protected if ICE says that we've violated the rules? I'd like some kind of clarity, because I think that, there's a way that I'd like to tell my students what protections they have. I'd like to know what protections I have, and also even so far as, like, if you are receiving paperwork that says a certain student needs, like, are you complying with that? Like, if it has all the legitimate signatures and things. And so that's just something I want to be able to communicate to my students as much as I can about how safe they are in our classrooms, because February 3rd, 2026, that is when TPS ends for Haiti. We have at least probably 1,000 Haitian students at our campus, and that's something that's on my mind. So I don't know if you can respond to that.
Yeah, there's a couple things I can highlight. So first, I'll follow up with President King about how we can communicate to the college operations supervisors, perhaps in more detail, kind of what the district steps are, the handoff to the college, how communication flows back and forth. On the second part, the reason that we modified the AP, and the number escapes me off the top of my head right now, but to say that the district general counsel and I are the only ones that can authorize the release of information or access to people is so that you could say, I'm not allowed to help you. And then if they arrest you, the district has a legal obligation under California Education Code to provide for your legal defense because you were following district direction and doing your job and are then being charged by an individual in a complaint or by a government agency with violation of a direction or a law they're enforcing. And that's how I trigger that legal protection, is so that you can say, there's nothing I can do for you. So if you close the door and lock it, I would say that you are acting in accordance with district direction until you're given an order from the district that you need to unlock that door and provide them access, and then we can protect you on that. But let me follow up on the first part about how we can provide more clarity or communication so that people feel a bit more secure about, I know what's going to happen next should I see that van pull up and people start to get out. With that, we are 22 minutes over, but I appreciate the presentation, sharing of information, the questions that we've received. And so as we close out, I very much want to hear your feedback. You're going to have an opportunity to provide that. We got a lot of feedback after the spring, including what topics you would like to see covered in our next town hall, which is where I'll address the question you posed, because we do a Black Student Success Week in the spring. And I understand your question now as a recommendation that we spotlight that program when we come to our spring town hall, and we're in the season when that would be happening. So if there are other things that you're interested in across the district, hearing from me during this event, having people come up and join me on the stage to talk about the work they're doing, please share that information with us. Please do the feedback survey. Tell us what worked, what didn't work, what we can improve. I want this to be for you. And so I am very curious to hear your feedback and continue to evolve to meet your needs. Thank you again to the College of Continuing Education, North City campus for hosting us, President King, Dean Michelle Gray, everybody involved, Dan Sandoval, the team doing the technology in the back. I used to be able to sneak in and out of places, and now when I show up, it's a whole production, and I appreciate everybody who puts that effort in place. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week.